Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio radio, no pictures. Listen to this stream in your truck or your car or whatever live stream. Now, in this essay, I'd like to talk about movies and how movies are used for propaganda purposes. In fact, the thumbnail that you can see on this video is one where it's a Soviet communist poster from the Cold War era, where they say they're going to not just put their finger on the scales, but put their whole hand on the scales to produce outcomes against those that they disagree with or don't like. Very telling in today's social situation and political situation all across the Western world, where the globalists are taking over at a rapid rate. Now, this idea of movies, I'm old enough to remember when the Soviet Union collapsed and the Berlin Wall, which was symbolic of the East-West Cold War divides, where Berlin as a city was divided into two halves, the communist half and the Western half. And when the communist regime fell, the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall came down, I noticed at the time quite an uptick in what I would perceive as leftist propaganda that was going through the movies. Now, movies, from the time that movies began, even the silent movies, Vladimir Lenin and Leon Trotsky, the sort of the heavies, if you like, of the Bolshevik Revolution, they perceived movies, and again, these were silent black and white movies, very clunky by today's standards. They perceived movies were an absolutely essential part of distributing and pushing propaganda on the masses, and they believed that it could change minds, influence minds, gin people up into an emotional state, and so on. And this was something that's very much part of the communist regime. Even when there was mass famine and starvation, and people were eating their relatives just so they could stay alive, the Soviet propaganda had these very happy and very, very healthy and fit and buff-looking people walking around singing songs and patriotic communist type songs, so the reality and the propaganda were not even close, but they nonetheless stayed with it right till the end, and it was funny watching Soviet propaganda movies or looking at their posters and so on, because they were so far from reality that it was it was almost humor. Well, it was humorous. Now, propaganda in the West that existed, there was propaganda, Western American propaganda movies, but it was quite close to reality. May have not been bang on, but the closeness to reality was obvious. Also, there were propaganda movies for, if you like, the common good. For example, when at the end of World War II, there's a lot of people, a lot of men have been out there in the war zones, running around, shooting at folks and so on. And it's war, for goodness sakes. And they've been told it's okay if you go and kill the other guy. Then they come back to America, and now the government goes, "Hey, we don't want these soldiers having the wrong idea." So there were countless movies and shows and TV series that would talk about how wrong it is to kill people. Murder's a bad thing, which was, I suppose, odd, given that the day before they're being told to go out and kill the other guy. Nonetheless, that you don't want millions of people running around killing other people, so you can understand that propaganda and the need for it as well. And was it realistic in the sense that it's not so good if you go around killing people? Well, yeah, so there's propaganda that has, or potentially at least has, a useful purpose. And it's easy to step over the line and turn just what is pure entertainment. Now, there was a time in the West where movies were being made for entertainment. They didn't have a political message necessarily. And this was a unique time, I suppose. I mean, the history of movies is relatively small. It's only 100 years or so that we've had movies. So the idea of having political messaging in, or not having political messaging is an interesting one, because when movies are first around, we've got like World War One, then the Roaring Twenties, as it was called, the rebuilding after World War One, which was a boom time of 9 or 10 years before the Great Depression. And again, you would see movies being made for entertainment, but the movie industry is very much in its infancy then. Talking movies were only came at the tail end of that, and they were very new, color movies, that sort of stuff. When the Great Depression came, then you had movies as diversion entertainment, not necessarily political messaging in. World War II, political messaging, and then political messaging again after World War II. So by the time things are settled down, say the late 1960s, mid 1960s, movies were being made for the purposes of entertainment. And you could have seen, if you wanted to really go hard at it, you could see political messaging in it, but not to anywhere near the extent it was previously, or anywhere near the extent it is today. And the Cold War political messaging was clearly there, but outside of that, there were many movies made for entertainment. So, and just entertainment. Now there may have been a bit of a class thing, like the poor and the rich, that sort of stuff, but the political messaging, certainly as I look back on those movies now, you'd struggle to find it. Some would be, say, the Death Wish movies, where it was a law and order thing, that the gangs had taken over the streets, and the Charles Bronson character would go around, blowing them away and all this sort of stuff. So it was interesting to see in one of those initial movies, there was a young Jeff Goldblum was playing one of the hoods. Anyway, so the political messaging was out for a while, and the entertainment, pure movie just for entertainment, was in. And that was the glory days of modern Hollywood. No political messaging. But then, any power center is going to want to say, well, why don't we use that for pushing our propaganda? That being the movie scene. And so when the Cold War ended effectively, or the Cold War as it then was in the late 80s, early 90s, then for some reason at that time, and it was the globalists that were doing it, saying, well, let's use the movies for pushing the New World Order. And that's where the whole modern political scene began, in my understanding at least. So now I remember looking at a novel that was written in 1976, I think it's 77, and it was made into a movie in 2002, I think it was, and there were four characters, 3 straight white males, responsible, intelligent, well-educated, dedicated to their job, trying to do the right thing, upholding good sort of middle-class values and everything. There was one woman in the 4 main characters of the novel. She was like 6 foot tall, butchy, and but was dedicated again to the cause and so on. So what did Hollywood do with this? So we got four straight white folks, one sort of furniture removalist built type 6 foot tall butchy woman, and so that, what do they do with this? Well, they turn the woman into 100-pound sassy chick with crazy hair, who puts all the men to shame. One of the white men is turned into a gay guy or trans, it's hard to tell, or transitioning, and the other, there's one white man and the other is black. Then they introduce another main character to make 5 main characters. So there are 2 black men there, black men way smarter than the white men, and so on. There's a scene in the beginning where they're supposed to be the brilliant scientists, who are older white men, as you would expect. They have many years of experience with experiments and science. They're all turned into idiots, while the sassy chick with the hair tells them off and puts them in their place, and so on. This is the remake of, well, this is the rehashing of it. Now, the novel, why didn't they just stick with the novel? But the novel had been quite popular, so it's presumed that the movie would have quite a good following. And if they expect or anticipate a lot of eyeballs, remember the people that read the novel were your classic straight white male audience. Novel did very well, by the way. So what are they doing with the movie? Well, the novel did well, so we expect a lot of eyeballs will come to the movie. We can't pass up the opportunity. We cannot pass up this opportunity to inject it with propaganda. The New World Order globalist propaganda, which must subjugate straight white men. Straight white men want democracy, they want independent courts, they want rule of law, they want all the things that globalization doesn't want. So we have to, minimize and humiliate them and humiliate them on camera. The straight white guys, are they geniuses? No way. The 100-pound chick with sassy hair, she's the fucking genius, and she lets them know and puts them in their place. The black guys, they're the ones who are organised and sophisticated and well read, and they can quote Shakespeare word for word, whereas the white guys look on dumbly, not having clue Shakespeare. Who's there? So a complete reversal of any known reality, and the movie bombed. And at the time, as you would expect, it was horrendously scripted, badly acted. Even the lead black guy, who was given the most prominent role, in the movie, you got the impression watching it that he was treating it as a comedy or at least a tongue-in-cheek. And so anyway, the movie bombed, and even at the time, so we're over 20 years ago now, the studio was quick to blame all those fascist Nazi white men out there that wouldn't come to watch a movie that made them look stupid and ridiculous and so on. I wonder why they never came to watch that movie. I can't guess. Now, another one, this is a John Grisham novel, which had done very well, by the way. It was a well-selling novel. It was about political espionage and dirty dealings and all this sort of stuff. The lead guy was the lead male was a straight white guy. The woman was a very very unattractive, dumb, bookish sort of research type clerk that had uncovered some documents, and so they rehashed it. So she became presented as a ditzy super hot chick, and the white guy was replaced by a black guy. The black villain was replaced by a white villain, and so on. The movie did all right, I suppose, in the overall scheme of things, but they still couldn't keep their hands off it. So I looked at a number of other books, novels that were turned into movies, and over that time, up to the present day, and they all got the same treatment. All of them got the same treatment. The gender swapping, the race swapping, and the intelligence swapping, that's key. I'm sick of watching movies where the scientific genius is the black lesbian, all this sort of stuff. I mean, it's absurd. It's again nowhere near any known reality. Now maybe it's a futuristic world that some dream of, but I don't think it is that. I think the purpose of these movies and shows and the productions is to minimize white people. I don't think it's to further black people or black lesbians. I think they're just the props that are being used to minimize white people. I think that's all it is. Particularly minimize white men and portray them as bumbling fools or evil, fascists, that sort of stuff. So I think that's that's the only use that the trans people or the black lesbians have in this reordering of the new world order. They're just there to minimize and humiliate white people. No other purpose. But it's been going on, as I say, for quite a while. Now, I don't mind if the acting was good and the scripting was good and so on, that maybe they could get away with it to some extent, but they always seem to manage to fuck it up royally, and turn what potentially could be good entertainment into political messaging, absolute nonsense. Now, two of the recent, Mad Max Furiosa, and I've only seen the shorts, by the way, not the whole movie, and also Atlas, that Jennifer Lopez movie, both of them seem to be utter and absolute rubbish. And they seem to, almost as if they willfully, purposefully picked the wrong actors to do it. But I've got no problem if you have to, if somebody wants to write up a novel it's nothing but black lesbians taking over the universe. I don't care. Gee, go ahead. I won't read the novel. But if you want to make that novel into a movie, equally go right ahead. But they don't do that. They take successful straight white franchises and novels and stories and try and turn them into political messages. So you really got to wonder why they do. Why do they take only the white stuff and turn it into political messaging, which inevitably portrays white people as stupid, bumbling idiots, morons, or pure evil? Obviously, it's a very organised, planned, very focused effort to minimise white people across Western society. Why don't they do it to the Chinese? Why don't Chinese men? Why don't they do it to black men or in Africa? Why is it only white men have to get this treatment? That in itself is an interesting story. But they won't do novels or stories with the black lesbians taking over the universe because no one will watch it. They have to try and work out how can we get, using deceit and treachery and misinformation, how can we get as many eyeballs to this as possible and then inject into it the propaganda, and then we'll spring the propaganda trap on the audience without them knowing. But that's really what the game is. You've been Tacitus State, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.